Hi, this is Mark Mancini with VRBO Outstanding. This week's episode is part 2 of short-term rental hacks here at our favorite toy superstar, Home Depot. To me, zip ties are underrated. Now, if you're using these outside, make sure you get the UV protected ones. Otherwise, these will not last in the sun. Zip ties, especially some of the bigger ones, this is a little obscenely big, but if you want to attach two things together without glue, these zip ties work amazing. Please use them for handcuffs for a reason. They're tough. So never underestimate zip ties and always have them available. Another thing that you should consider getting is some of these multimeters if you know how to use them, and also electric detectors as well. There are some things like, for instance, you've got devices that will check your AC power and make sure that your AC is grounded correctly and working right. You'll also have some of these that are what's called tone and probe, where you can plug this in and use the probe to see which circuit breaker it is in case you want to turn off a circuit breaker and replace an outlet. Always a safe thing to do. Multimeters come in handy for things like landscape lighting. If you want to check the voltage and amperage of that line outside, you can easily check it with your wires. You can also check continuity. A lot of cool things you can do with a multi-tester. And yes, I worked at Radio Shack many years ago, so I can geek out about this all day long. There's also tools at Home Depot for low voltage stuff. So if you're doing your own Ethernet troubleshooting and cable testing, they've got all the tools here to make your cables, test your cables. So everything you need is right here. And I'm always a big fan of getting a good stripper and pliers to use when you're cutting your Cat5 cable. It makes the job a lot easier. So again, these are some basic tools that you can get. Some basic testers you can get at Home Depot that'll make your electrical and your low voltage job a lot easier and a lot safer for you too. Since you're talking electrical, I want to go over a couple things with how to attach and combine electrical wires. Now, these wire nuts, or they call them wing twists here, the generic version, you'll usually get these when you buy a light fixture or fan. And this is very simple. You get your two wires, you squeeze them together, and you get this cap and put it over it, and it's threaded, and it'll attach onto there by simply screwing it on. You generally don't have to buy these because you're going to have extras every time you buy lights and fans. And that's one way of attaching wires together. That also works real well outside with landscape lighting, so you can attach the wires and also tape around the outside. Something else, they call these tap splices. We also call them Scotch locks. And it's for a smaller gauge wire. You can put them together and squeeze them, and it's a good way to connect two different wires. Now, a couple other things that you're talking about connecting wires is liquid electrical tape. This is great. This actually comes in a couple different colors. This actually is red. They have white and black. So if you have a wire that's got a scrape in it and you see some silver copper underneath it, rather than tape it, and I have an issue with tape. Tape eventually will start to come off and it doesn't really stay all that well. This is more like a silicone. You paint it on and it's like a rubber and it gels together. It's a great way to protect any wires that have been frayed. Finally, dielectric grease. And I've talked about this in some of my episodes on outdoor wired camera systems and wired security cameras. With the RJ45 connectors, you want to spray this inside, keep the salt and the water and the rain out of there from rusting, keeps the connection great. So dielectric grease, also keep one of these around, always your friend. So since we're back in the low voltage department, I do want to go into a little bit more detail on some of the testing kits here, because I'm a computer nerd, you may not be. So some of these, like for instance, this one will do a continuity test, make sure the cable is not broken, any of the wires, because there's 8 wires in each cable, make sure none of them are broken. There's ones like this which do the same thing, but it'll tell you which wire and what the length is and all this other thing. It's 3 times the price, but for the layperson, you don't need something like that. Something that's really good is something like this that'll tell you which cable is broken, but also have what's called a tone and probe. So let's just say you've got 5 cables on one side and you got 1 cable on the other. You don't know which of those 5 cables goes to that one cable. You put this on that lone side and it emits a tone. Then you get your probe and it listens for it, it amplifies it, and you put it next to each wire and you'll hear that tone, and that's how you know which cable it is. That's of the several that may be there that goes to the other end of that. So it doubles as a tracer kit and a line continuity tester. So something like this for $40, definitely worthwhile to get. This is called a punch down tool. So if you have a jack, like a wall jack, you can actually punch the wires and do your own wall jacks if you wanted to do that. And then you've got your, right over here, your crimp kit with your crimper. So if you need to make a modular end, you can do that as well. That's usually for repairing ends. You want to buy the cable already made. It's a lot easier and just as cheap. But if you need to replace an end, that's what these crimpers are for. Definitely worthwhile doing. And the old days of coax, well, I would do an episode on it, but it'd be outdated already. No one really uses that anymore. A lot of the new cable providers are using Roku and other devices to get those local channels to you without needing a box or coax cables to each of the TVs, which is a lot easier on us. But 10 years ago, if you were around when I was around, it was a pain in the butt running those cables all throughout the house to all the TVs, but they made stuff a lot easier nowadays. Again, Home Depot has all this stuff for your low voltage and your Ethernet type needs. So please definitely go here and be able to get something close by when you need it. So one of the things I like about Home Depot, they do have some nice stainless steel garbage cans, especially something like this for a bathroom. And of course the bigger version over here for a kitchen. So definitely something worthwhile to get because it's a pretty heavy thing. You can't really get that shipped in. And they'll usually have some sales on it, or again, use that $75 off coupon, $500 or more, because you know as well as I do, every time you go to Home Depot, you're spending $500 or more. Now, another thing that isn't in this aisle, but it's similar to this, is your storage containers, right? So usually you'll have these plastic containers with sealed tops on them. We always have them for our owner's closet. So whenever we want to put our toiletries, maybe some clothes in there, we get those bins with a sealed top and put all of our stuff in there and put it in the owner's closet. So then when we go to visit, we pull them right out, has all of our stuff right there, and we can enjoy the rest of our vacation with our items. In fact, we'll even use our own sheets and towels that are different from the guests, and we keep everything separate in those storage containers. And that's just a nice thing to get. They're very stackable and they're waterproof. Definitely worthwhile to get. Ready? So if you've got a garage or shed space, any place that you can put something like this, we just bought 3 of these for our garage at the Oasis. This thing is heavy. I'm talking, this is a good probably 150 pound of metal. It'll support 10,000 pounds of items on here. So you have, I think, 4 shelves on here, and it's definitely a really nice, robust. It's normally 350, now it's down to 300. We've got 3 of these. If you need storage and want to get shelving, this is a definite must if you've got the space for it. They have some other smaller ones here, some smaller shelving units at Home Depot here, but if you have the space for the bigger one, don't skip on it. Now these are an example of some of the other ones. So if you don't have the space, you can use these, but they're not going to hold 10,000 pounds. But again, if you've got the space, it's a great way to organize everything. It's just going to be limited as to how much weight you can have on there. But again, organizational skills are a must. Go with the metal, don't go with the plastic. So I'm going to briefly touch on flooring. 2 types of flooring you should not have in a short-term rental: hardwood or carpeting. I'm not a fan of laminate either. I'm a big fan of LVP or LVT, luxury vinyl planking, luxury vinyl tile, whatever you decide to call it. Pergo's brand we happen to be in front of right now. I don't endorse them, it just happened to be where I'm at. Antimicrobial and waterproof. Now all the luxury vinyl planks are waterproof to a degree. Water will not get in there, but if you leave water on there long enough, it'll eventually seep into the subflooring. So if you mop it up pretty quickly, you'll be good to go. Even if you've got furniture on here and you drag the furniture, likely won't scratch, or it's going to be really tough to scratch. This is very durable stuff. You put this in, it's going to last 20 years. Get it put in right, make sure the flooring is level first, and you'll be good to go. And you'll see pricing on this anywhere from $2.25 a square foot up to $4.50 a square foot, depending on the quality and the colors and so forth. Also the length. Some of these longer ones will be more money, but you're putting down less planks, so it's less labor intensive. Again, I'm a big fan of this, especially in a short-term rental. It's durable, it lasts forever, definitely the flooring to go with. I do want to talk about appliances here, because at both stores, Lowe's or Home Depot, they're going to have sales around the holidays, July 4th, Labor Day, Memorial Day. And not only are they going to have sales where you can bundle, the more you buy, the bigger discounts you get. So if you buy a refrigerator, a stove, washer and dryer, every time you add more, you go up to the next level, there's more and more discounts. Plus you've got the luxury of maybe 6 months or a year interest-free financing. But the other thing they'll do are scratch and dent sales. Now, in a short-term rental, I'm not a huge fan in putting in a scratch and dent item. Depends where the scratch and dents are. I mean, I don't want to see a big fist imprint on a refrigerator, but let's just say there's a couple cracked drawers. You can get these replaced online pretty easily, so it's definitely worth the savings if you can get something like that. But definitely try not to get something that's damaged in front. Aesthetically, you want to make sure it looks good, it looks clean, and it's also cleanable. Fingerprint resistance, always a great way to go. Definitely stick though with the main brands and the name brands, because some of the other ones, you're going to find the quality. Look at the ratings online with their website, because it'll give you some insight of what people are thinking about the quality of them and so forth. Also, with getting the name brands, getting replacement parts like shelves and such are going to be a lot easier to get, because these shelves will break. Guests will break these. In 10 years I've had short-term rentals, multiple short-term rentals, I've had to replace probably 4 or 5 glass shelves, okay? It's not uncommon, I'm sure you have too. But definitely look for those sales. But again, the scratch and dent, if you have a long-term rental, scratch and dents are good. You can put scratch and dents in there, but short-term rentals, you wanna make sure they're all looking good. The one thing I don't like though, for short-term rentals, is these water filter types, because you'll have to swap out the filters in here, but also sometimes the water line coming in will freeze up. And we've had that happen. There's some brands like GE has been known over the years where those lines will freeze up and water doesn't come out and the guest gets upset. I prefer just having an ice maker in here and let the guest have the ice maker, but not the water capabilities. Again, the different French door style refrigerators allow you to put some more things in there, whether it's side by side or top bottom. You know, the French doors does give you a better access than just coming off the one side. But also another thing to think about when you look at refrigerators, at least, see how they are with closing. Because a lot of times guests are going to be lazy and they may not close it all the way like that. And that may be an issue when they go to close it. It doesn't close all the way or all the time, and it may stay open. So always make sure you get something that is going to close pretty sturdy. So washer and dryers. I'm just happen to be in front of an LG. But one thing I want to talk about with washer and dryers is this is one that is a complete one-piece unit. The problem with this is that it does not separate. So if your dryer goes, your washing machine goes, both are shot. Do not get something like this. Make sure they're separate. Also, you want to make sure that there is a quick wash capability, 15-minute wash period. With the dry, you want to make sure it's got a good dry cycle as well. You want to be able to turn over the towels and sheets as quickly as possible. Even though you'll have multiple sets of linens, you'll want to make sure that your staff can clean as many as they can in the time they're there cleaning. So the quick cycle is always going to be a smart way to go. Again, get the separate version, get a good name brand like a Maytag. I prefer the front load because you can stack these and you can get 2 sets. Yes, you heard me, 2 sets. So you can run 2 at once. Always a smart thing to do when you're trying to get as many linens done in as shortest period as possible. Thanks for watching VRB Outstanding Home Depot Hacks for Short-Term Rental Owners Part 2. Please hit the like and subscribe button below, and we'll see you again next week.